Hello everyone and welcome back. This isn't so much as a real episode, more so of like a filler I guess, is what you could call it, cause the campaign is over. We have won, pretty much narrowly avoiding actual defeat there against the Iconians, surprisingly enough. I kind of was worried and apparently I was justified. And what better way to celebrate this momentous occasion than to bore the hell out of everyone by making myself my one and probably only huge scale type of cruiser. It is an exciting time indeed, isn't it? I feel bad for you all right now. So starved for oh no, what the hell? So starved for Galactic Civilization content on this channel that you're gonna watch me go through making a huge scale battle cruiser. I know I feel sorry for myself right now because I have to go through all that. You at least have a choice. But to be perfectly honest, I don't have a real clue how I really want to start. All I have that I want to try is have the cockpit be like the very top focal point of the entire ship, and then work down from there. That's really all I have in mind. That's all I really know. I could possibly use this front nose as part of like the front of the ship there at some point, but that is a long ways off, I think. And I am going to take my time with it here, at least for the time being. Because, like I said, I'm going to have to develop a new race, get the kinks all worked out, and I'm going to be pretty limited on time, at least on the weekdays. So it's not like I'm going to have it ready by anytime soon. So a couple weeks, maybe 2 weeks at the earliest, depending how quickly things come and fall into place there. Like I find an image that I would like to represent the race, the narrative, the style, because I am going to have to develop a couple of ships, just like the colony ship, the basic scout construction ship. I'm going to do that off the channel, just so I can get a feel, an idea of what kind of a style I want the race to look like, at least their ship designs. Like, after all, if I'm going to make like an aquatic race there, a bunch of fish people, or brute like hedgehogs, they gotta fit the part, right? Like if I make a whole entire race of porcupines, they need a lot of spikes on them. So it's gotta figure out those little nuances. Mind you, I probably would not go that extreme, but just to give you an idea of what is running through my head as far as developing a new race. So I've been talking too much about that there. It's kind of hard to actually focus on building a ship. And actually, I do want to keep the scaling up, actually. Just a little bit, because there is going to be, ideally, a good amount of fine detailing. So I want this size to be good. So let's stick with 100. Actually, since this is going to be a very small component, I would imagine it probably can afford to be smaller than below the 100 scale. It just feels odd seeing as this is my reference point, so gonna have to work out the kinks a bit. Also, it needs to be really high up there. How high is high enough though? Because I gotta make sure it's got a good placement. And a lot of this can be worked out. So we'll have to wait and see what I come up with. And of course the camera's gonna be such a pain. Maybe this is not a good idea. I'm gonna have to narrow it down a tiny bit and work from there. I thought I could get away with it, but I guess it's not the case. And we'll start with the cockpit as that, and then we'll get the piece underneath and see if it can fit there anyway. I like the idea of this piece here. The only problem is it's curved. That connection piece is curved there, so I might have to angle this a little bit differently, if it's even possible for it to serve as the platform for the cockpit. I honestly don't know what to expect. I'm kind of doing this blind a little bit. At least the Exterminator, I had an idea with how I want to do it. Vaguely. This is a little bit different. I just have a vague representation in my head, and I'm hopeful, really hopeful it actually works out. I just don't think it's possible to stretch this out, is it? That nose component. I can't stretch out, but it's going to be really weird. The textures are going to be out of whack. So I do need to be careful of that. maybe this isn't the right piece, but I do want to see if it does fit in any form or not. Unless I want to put like another component underneath that connects into that, so that way I don't have to go too ridiculous on the sizing. Maybe that's ideal. We'll have to see. Because again, my main bugbear is of course all this texturing being oversized, so I am a little hesitant about doing that, but it seems like it's the only way to get it the way, at least the size I want. So we'll start with that. And mainly as a prototype, as a proof of concept or something. And then this is going to be a hassle to kind of figure out, so maybe what I want to do is lower everything down so that way I can actually maneuver it right, then move it up as the rest of the ship gets developed. That sounds like a better idea, because this camera is being a little difficult for me. Now, I do need something to connect underneath it, and I've had some experience with that at least, so I know I have a few ideas how to fix that. Like, I could just simply move that forward, but I think I want to leave that in the middle for the time being. So we'll lower this down, and we'll get to work on this bottom component. Because I did something like this with the Watcher, I think it is. If not, it's certainly not the Pulverizer. So the Moth, or the Beetle, and the Watcher, I think already did something similar to this. So we just put this underbelly under. It's going to be more blocking anything, so I don't care about the height. It's just a matter of having the length and everything else I want of it. Then we'll try moving into place and see if I need to add anything more or not. Because I wonder if I want a clone piece of it in the back. Can I even make a clone or copy? Is that even possible? I'm not seeing it, so my guess is no, because I don't see a clone anywhere. I see one down there, and one way out in front there, so nope, no way in hell I'm going to get a copy in back, so we're going to have to do this piecemeal. Which begs the question, do I want another piece like that? Because this is more rougher a little bit. So let's try a standard block and see if somehow I can make this work. Because obviously there's no textures to this thing. So it's going to be a little interesting. The metallic components could work, but is there some kind of like section that's like a hybrid maybe? It actually works a little bit better. But let me just look at the rest. That's okay. So with that said, let me look at the front. What does the front look like? Nothing exciting. So I think that's our plan. Well, at least this has a little more substance to it, so maybe I want like this. So that way, that might work. Just gotta stretch it and see how it looks. I think is really the plan. And I can leave that back there to an extent. That should be okay. And hopefully I can get away with a gap in the middle there, because after all, this is going to sink right into this body here, so most of that's going to be obscured and hidden anyway. Just got to find the right axis to kind of even out the height. And we'll try moving this into place, see how it looks. See if that's a start, if nothing else. Yeah, it's not perfect, of course, especially with like the metal there and the metal trim on the side. If I could somehow remove myself of that little nuisance, that would be good too. I can easily possibly fix that with just the set axis here of this front piece. And at least a good majority of it. Just need to stretch out. No, it's not going to work the way I think. So let me just get this flush in the front then. As flush as I can work with that. Unless I want to just move it all down further, because I can't do that right there. That almost does it. And it just gives me that one little component there. Nah, not a really impressive start, because this is an oversized texture. We can still work with it though. If I need to, shell components can just wrap around that easily. That is a very simple fix. Back, maybe not so much. Now, Let's start with like a body of some kind. Like I said, this is going to take a little bit of time. I'm not in any real rush. Like I said, I'll need to just get the actual time I want while keeping content on the channel, or at least keeping the series going, for the sake of getting the nuance, at least so that way I have time to work, get the specifics down, and of course trying to talk to this about all this is also distracting me some, which kind of is a bit of an annoyance as far as I'm concerned. So let me flip this around and see how that works as the starting bulkhead, because this is going to, really, this is not going to be very big. All this is going to be, now, can I, well, I can move this up, but I'll move everything else up with it. That's my big concern there. If I am going to start gradually moving all this stuff, I do kind of need to get it all grouped together, don't I? Is it even possible to group it all together? Oops, that was not what I want to hit. Let's see, can I group this all together? Will it let me? Oh wait, that's the wrong button. Never mind. Oh wait, I'm doing it again, damn it. Okay, group the currently selected parts. Okay. That did something, but it only grouped the ones that were up here. If I had this connected below, that would have been a little bit simpler, so lessons learned. Lessons are being learned here. So if this bulkhead is going to work the way I want, it needs to be part way up and then stretch it back. Well, I said stretch it back, so it's not really accommodating me very well. Is it now? This is going to be a little bit harder to kind of cover over because of the stretch texturing, which frankly I really do hate the stretch textures, as was probably apparent by the fact of my Guardian, how that was working. So I don't know what I want from the, actually I could probably just back this up. Of course everything's connected together, so this is going to be a little odd, especially since the top piece portion is now out of place. So that connects relatively well there. Of course now I'm going to have to put something else behind it there to kind of keep the superstructure going. At least this gives me a nice metallic like connection point. Also, what that means is I can shrink the scaling down a bit. It helps with the texture issue a little, keeps that metal frame consistent, and we are underway. For now. Now, do I want another bulkhead like that? I probably do, because there's going to be a lot more to this ship. There is definitely going to be a hell of a lot more. I don't even know if it's going to really take any shape at all until like 3-4 episodes in. Because I don't know honestly what the hell I'm doing. I just have an idea and I'm going with it. That's really all it is. And I was kind of hoping maybe this would flush in kind of seamlessly, but it's not going to. So now, what's the scaling on this? 143, 114, 143, and 114. Let's start with that. Big problem, of course, is the metal trim. Obviously. Which I think I have it for, so it just means I just need something to fill in the middle, that's all. Otherwise everything looks good. Now how long do I want this component to be? We'll go with the same length as the front one for now, 152. And then we'll I'll probably just fill this out now with something. Here's like a simple component I could throw in there that I could forget about. That actually would be decent, so long as I don't have that lighting component showing. That actually would work well. It almost seems like that's like a bottom latch of some kind. Although this isn't going to represent the bottom of the ship by any means, but it could play a part in something later on down the road as I continue on with this development. Let's just make sure it is in place properly. I probably have to lift up, do I? Yeah, I do. Then move in. There. I think that fills it out decently there, and I can fill it more as the need is required. Now, do I move this back more? There. Like I said, work in progress. And we're going to cover this over eventually, so I'm not too worried about that. Which leaves me, I want to start working my way towards the front, the nose. At least, at the very least, I want to practice the idea I had, if it stops switching the types on me here. About this component maybe serving as a nose. It'll have to be a lot bigger though. And I can't remember, I have no idea where to set, oh, I see it, never mind. I was going to talk about the center nose component. So that way it doesn't have to be connected to this part at all. Although, it's gonna, oh my god, really? That's about as far as I can take it. I guess I'll have to do for the time being. Maybe do it a little bit lower, because I'm going to have to work my way to this component. And what kind of ridiculous scale am I going to go for? I kind of want to leave it as it is, maybe a tiny bit wider. That's height, so let's widen it some. We're going to have to see about how to fill out the middle opening there, that hollow point. Later on down the road at least. And I don't know how wide I want it to be either. So, we're starting to take a little bit of form. And just as I say that, we're back to square one. Give me a moment here, please. Not that the scaling doesn't matter there, I just want to have it as more of a reference point for later on down the road, so let's try it again, shall we? Now, scale you back wide for now. For now, you're about as far forward as probably need to be. So, how do we proceed? Actually, let me lower this down now, because I don't want it at height, I want it lower down. Because this, I imagine I'm going to move this entire thing back if I'm able to. So, not too concerned there. Actually, how far back can I go? About that far back, so let me go to 25. That should give me the space I need. And of course, everything can go back into place afterwards. It's just going to be a bit annoying having to keep readjusting the cockpit or the command center every time. And I don't like the box sticking out as much as it is, so let me have it more lean forward some. And like I said, I'll have to deal with that metal frame later on down the road. Now, if it's so far back, I'm almost tempted to kind of start thinking about the engines, but I think I'm starting to also get a bit carried away. I don't want to work on the front, then work on the engines, then everything else. It sounds like way too much work trying to do at once, so let's just focus on widening this thing. What is an ideal component to widen it, though? Can this serve as just more of a cosmetic piece, I wonder? I don't think I'm going to do anything fancy with it. I just want to like sink into that side some. Just to kind of give it some natural width. And the metal trim, of course, can connect there decently. How well does this sink into place, though? Not bad. Not bad at all, and of course when I change the set axis, that of course decides to move it backwards. Galactic civilization is being a dick to me. Just gonna put it out there. So, do I want to wind it any? Well, it's been stretched quite a bit too, so the metal frame is kind of a little different. Let me just see how much it does. Yeah, it does change the thickness, so I need to keep that in mind. So I'll do 95, put it back into place, and we'll just leave it at that. I know I'm picky about the metal frames, but hell, it does stick out if you do it. If you carelessly just put components on there and not have it seem consistent. After all, or it doesn't seem to have a nice flow to it. Mind you, things like the texture here does still stand out, but at least it's not as noticeable as like a metal trim that just ends randomly into the orange carapace or bulkhead. So, it is a bit of a bugbear of mine. Whether it's a good thing that I have this habit or not, I'm not sure. But we'll know later on down the road as I continue on with these ship designs. Now, what I have in mind for this component is just kind of rotate in, kind of curve into the superstructure some, or do actually, no, I need more. I think I need more bulkhead, honestly. I think I'm going about it wrong, just having a shell piece, because it's going to be incredibly hollow. And of course there's going to be more added to it. So, which begs the question, what do I add? I can add these on here. They're going to, like I said, I'm going to be adding more to it. I just don't know how much of it is going to be visible when I get to that point, but at least these I can cover reasonably well because they are hollow. I'm going to want to fill it out naturally anyway. It's just a matter how, what little bit might be sticking out would look good. At the very least, it connects very well with this component here. I like it anyway. I just don't know about whether I want this thing sunk in more. Of course, the metal trim is a bit of an issue. Hopefully I can fix that some. How long do I want it, though? We'll just leave it at that. Oh, and I need a copy. Good thing I caught that. There. It will continue to whine as we go. Almost wondering if I want to make it go extend it downward, but I think I want some superstructure first before I do that. And of course we want more in the back here, so let me try and get some connection piece here. Almost to the point if I want to have like a another piece like this. I probably don't want to though. But what would be a good curving piece that would go up into the command center? What will work out? I'm not really certain. Oh, maybe we can use this. It's going to be a bit odd because there's so much lane effects. This is, after all, like a star-based component, so it is a little bit out of place for like a massive command center. Only if I can limit the amount of lighting on it, then it might work. So we'll have to see how this works. It doesn't stick out as much though, that's the only problem, unless I widen it to extreme amounts. We'll see. How will it look? Because I widen it like that's gonna look odd. Let's move it back so it's not intruding as much. That's not bad. Kind of just want to sink the bottom so it doesn't exist. And then stretch it back up a little bit longer. No, that's not that said. No, that's not it. Jeez, I'm really bad at this axis. Getting that figured out properly. There. That is a bit odd. I do say so with that lane. So I probably still need to cover it. What happens if I rotate though? What happens if I rotate sideways? Jeez, I'm really bad at figuring out the right axis here. Of course, everything is like, I'm gonna have to readjust the scaling back to the other way. So this is 92. The other one was like 72 or something. See how that looks. Maybe sink it a bit more or sink it back. Let's see. Kind of rather sink it back some. Rotation's a bit off too, is it? Oh, it's not 90 degrees, that's why. That is not... that is better. I will say that. It's better. I just need to sink it down a little more. It feels like. Is it too wide though? Or even better question, do I make it longer? Because again, top component could sink almost all the way to the back. where that lighting is, so that kind of does it. Now the block is kind of in the way. Now, let me unselect these components. Good thing there's ungroup. Well, that wasn't what I had in mind. Kind of pushed everything out of the way. Now let's try this without the block and try this again, shall we? Who would have thought grouping and ungrouping work against me here? I thought it was trying to make it more convenient for me, and apparently it's not the case. That's actually not too bad. Still need to make a couple tiny adjustments, so do I sink it down or not? Well, sinking it down is not a good idea, because the tip is actually getting in the way. That's not bad at all. I do like it. The lights are not as problematic as I thought it would be, but still, it's a bit odd. I'll have to do a little bit more to it as we move on. But it is definitely a starting point, so I can't object at all. Now, let's work on the next component back and try and continue to widen it, shall we? What would be a good component here? Because this is circular, so it's not really ideal. I don't think it's going to look the way I would like. No, we're gonna have a lot of issues here because of just because it's a completely different shape. But I don't want to keep using the same piece over and over again either. That's gonna be limit how creative I can be too. So stretching out does help some. I'll need to fill out a couple of components, which may not be an issue. And what I need to do now is start preparing for like an engine section in the back. Because I don't want to go too much further back, I think. How much do I want to stretch this though? I think I'm okay there. We'll have to play with it some. If anything, it might be too wide because the metal's starting to poke out on the side there. Barely noticeable. But I think I'm okay with that. That wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Still needs fleshing out like I just said, but let's continue. Now let's figure out how to do these engines.